So I hope all of you are in sync with what we are doing and what we are covering, right? All of you have understood Data Factory at least as a extraction and a loading tool. You understood it. How does it copy data from one place to the other? What all is required? Creation of data set requiring a link service, right? That all is clear for everybody. We yesterday, I think we also did movement of data from on-premises environment to Azure and from Azure to on-premises environment using self-hosted integration runtime. Uh, for those of you who've not gone through it, please go through it. It's very important, right? Because as somebody who's working, with Data Factory, you have to know some of the basics, right? When it comes to connecting to different sources, and on-premises is a very important source to connect to, right? In a time where multiple organizations, when I say multiple organizations, right, majority of them are looking to move their assets from their on-premises environment to the cloud environment, right? Because when it is in the cloud environment, you get better data security, you get better data governance, you get, it becomes easier for you to integrate it with the data engineering tools that we have been covering. So along the same lines, we'll see more of it today. But before we go into that, right, my question today to all of you is, why Data Factory? Why do you want a low code or a no code solution where you could have gone and written, everything, all the transformations could be performed through code. The data movement could be performed through code. You can write scripts to move data from one place to the other. Then why, or what do you think is the benefit of using Data Factory? Anyone wants to try it out?
Complexity.
Complexity is one of it, yes.
Um,
Scripts, writing scripts is a complex task. Absolutely. You need to have a lot of expertise in a particular programming language, right? That is one of it, yes. But what else?
Easy to use.
What
Easy to use.
could you
Like
repeat?
development friendly.
I did
Development
not get
friendly.
you. Development friendly,
No,
yes.
development. I mean, easy to
Development,
use. Uh,
easy to use. Yes, yes. Low code, no code solutions are always easy to use when you have drag and drop options, right? Uh, it's always better than your conventional writing the code and writing those big scripts, right?
and reusability for the
Absolutely right. You build modular uh, artifacts here which could be reused. Your link service could be used, right? Because when you're writing code and there's a different script for all the different transformations, then you have to define the same transformation again, right? You have to define the same connection again. You have to define the same logics also again. But here, absolutely correct. You can reuse a particular copy data activity, right? From the same source, you can reuse it in multiple
Mul-
pipelines.
and
Correct.
automation.
Multiple data processing,
Multiple data processing also, yes.
like data spark, PySpark, data.
That also you can integrate over here. Correct. But that you can do through scripts also, right?
It's automation.
Automation also, yes. Let me tell you one thing. There's one more benefit to it. That is the major problem that multiple organizations faced. Let me share my presentation so that I can explain it to you. Or we can, no, let's go to PowerPoint also itself. Yeah. So there is one large problem that has happened. Now, all of you have worked in an organization, yes or no? All of you have some experience of working in an organization,
Yes.
correct? What is the most difficult code that exists for an organization? What do they call it?
Called security.
Security is there, yes. Security is, you know, not what I'm asking about.
Okay.
Leave security aside. Uh, have you heard about legacy systems, legacy code, older
Yes.
code? What companies today fail to achieve is to modernize their legacy environments. Correct? A code written in 2000s, early 2000s, may not be supported today. Correct? That is why everywhere you go, people talk about Java code modernization, legacy code modernization, mainframe modernization. You heard about it or not? Somewhere or the other, you would have heard about it. Now, what does that mean? That means that whatever tools and technologies we are using today, whatever, not just tools and technologies, basically the code that you are using today may become obsolete in the near future. Yes or no? What do I mean by that? A code, what is the current version of Java? Does anybody know? The latest, uh, you know, I think it is Java 24 or something,
Yes,
right?
24, yeah.
Java 24. We
24
had
and
a
24.02.
yes, right. We had Java 21 also. We had other versions also. Correct. Now that means that these languages they constantly evolve. Your scripts, or let me just use programming languages here, they continuously evolve. The functions, that's syntax, the libraries that you have today may not be supported tomorrow. Yes or no? Can happen because it's continuously evolving. The features and the libraries and the syntax that we had, let's say in very old version of Java, may not be supported today. Correct? And that is the main problem for Java based modernization, right? Or any language based, right? I'm taking Java as an example here. We have nothing to do with Java. Correct? So when you come to drag and drop tools, right? GUI tools, what does it offer? It gives you a visual interface. For example, when we defined copy data activity, did we write any code to copy the data anywhere? Yes or no?
No,
Did we write a single line of code anywhere? The answer is no. You don't have to. It's not required. Right? Just a simple, configurations, selecting from the drop downs. The most we would have given is, I think, in the wildcard, we had to write star dot star or star dot txt. That is the only thing that you had to set from your side. Correct? When you define this copy data activity, do you think that it's just UI doing its thing?
no,
Can can computer understand UI based elements? No. Computer understands only programming languages. Yes, computer can only understand programming languages. It can only understand data in bytes or your binaries, correct? Ones and zeros. That is the only language computer understands. So therefore, I cannot say that these UI elements are actually performing the task. Each UI element has a backend code. We've just encapsulated this code into a UI element. Correct? Do you understand this point? Every UI element has a backend code. What we select through configuration is nothing but giving parameters to those code. Correct? So every UI element will have some code in the backend, but I don't have to write it. Who needs to write this code? Microsoft. It is Microsoft's job to convert my UI elements into the backend code, right? Now, if the language changes, let's say 5 years from now, there has been certain changes in the language, Microsoft will adjust the code accordingly. I don't have to change the UI elements. Does it make sense? Yes or no? For example, if I go to Data Factory, also I understood the reason as to why the data Azure, data factory also we tried yesterday. It was running very slow. Virtual machines also we tried yesterday. It's running very slow, right? Azure portal. If I'm creating resources, especially in US regions, it's running very slow. Do you know the reason? Anybody here knows the reason? I'll show you one thing. Wait. So who was there in the last two classes? How many of you were present? Last, I think 2 to 3 classes. We are facing a lot of issues to connect with Azure services. You saw how difficult it was
mm,
yesterday and day before yesterday for us to connect to Azure resources. And I was trying my internet connection, the internet was working fine. So it did not make sense to me at that time, but it looks like there has been a subsea cable cut. Is anybody aware of it?
Yeah,
No?
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Model.
Yeah. So there was, as I have told you, that Azure has a global network, right? I'll show you as a Azure global network. So this is the global network, the backbone networking infrastructure for Azure, where if there is an image here, yeah, like this, right? This is, I think, the other continent, Europe and Africa, and this is your North America. And there are cable lines, which have been put into the sea. And these cable lines are basically carrying the network. And when we are trying to connect to Azure, there were some problems with it because there were an outage due to that. So if you go and Google, Red Sea cable cut, so you'll see it has affected, the 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 Azure's internet connectivity. And that is why we were facing so much of issue to connect to our Azure resources, right? So that was one reason. Coming back to Data Factory now, what I'm trying to explain to you is, even though in the Azure Studio or the Data Factory Studio, we create UI or we use UI elements to create a transformation or to create a pipeline, in the backend, it is using code itself, right? So if I see a pipeline here, we created this on-prem copy activity, right? So this copy activity will have some code associated with it, right? In whatever language Microsoft understands, language is not important to us. But can you imagine if tomorrow the language changes, then it is not your headache to modernize your code, right? It is Azure's headache. It is Microsoft's headache to make sure that the current code, when the syntax has changed, when the libraries have changed, the functions have changed, it is Azure's headache now to change the backend code. Understood? Yes or no? Make sense? Now, whatever we create here on the Azure portal, also in the data factory, has a code associated with it, right? There is always a code. Why? You would have seen Git integration. If I go to manage section, you would see Git configuration, right? Git is nothing but a code versioning system. Yes or no? How many of you have heard about Git, GitHub, Bitbucket? Have you heard about it? GitHub, I'm sure everybody would have heard about it.
Yes. Yes, a repository.
Yes. What do you do in that repository? You back up your code. You
Yes.
create a central repository, or you create a remote repository, and you make sure that whoever wants to work on that code has access to that repository, and they can download the latest version, which
And
is
merge
basically
it.
nothing. In their own local machines, they can create a local repository also, right? So if they make any
Yes.
changes to their local repository, that is, so it means like I have a central hub where my code is present. I'll show you. So it's like one, this is a remote repository. So this is where all your code is present, right? And this is let's say 3 developers are working on it. So they will have their own local repository, LR, right? So this will be their local repository. So whatever files are there, let's say in my code, I have only HTML file, let's say index.html. So everybody will have index.html. All will have this index file, all right, in their local repository. That is, they have cloned it from the remote repository. We call it clone. Yes. Or now what happens is, let's say developer 1, developer 2, developer 3. Developer 1 implemented a functionality. Let's say he added the nav bar to my website. Nav bar is the one that you see on the top, where you have the logo, contact us, about us, all those things are there, right? Pricing and everything, home, login, profile. So that is a nav bar. He designed the nav bar. Now what he'll do, he'll push his code to the remote repository. That changes the remote repository, and now the code becomes code dash. Code dash means updated version of the code. What others have to do, they have to pull it again. And now their code, their local code will now become code dash, right? So this is how GitHub works. There's a remote repository where everybody is, pushing their code. Once it is approved, it is working fine. And then local repository, the same copy of the same file they will have in their local environment also, and they'll be working with it. So this is what GitHub does, right? It's one cloud platform that helps you manage your code versioning system, right? Version control also we call it. Why does my data factory need to connect to, let's say, GitHub or any other Git-based technology? If I go to configure, I can see what type of repository it is, whether GitHub or Azure repository. I can connect with both of them, right? CI/CD also you would have heard about. What code gets backed up? If I am in data factory, I am saying essentially I don't have any code, correct? I am using UI elements. Where is the code? So if the code is not there, what am I actually going to back up to this GitHub repository? So the answer is whatever UI elements you create, they will have a corresponding JSON code. All right. This JSON code is basically used to describe that pipeline. So for this pipeline, this is the JSON code. So if I click on this button, I would be able to see the JSON code for my pipeline. Now, pipeline will mention uh, the data sets. So if I go to data sets now and I open this, even the data set will have a code, right? So this is the data set, right? So it mentions that it's a file server, link service, reference, right? Uh, what it is, correct? It's a data set. If I go to link services also, I'll be able to see this. So this is my link service. If I click on this code, I'll be able to see the link service. So this link service is created with my data lake. So I'll find that this is the name. The type of this link service is that it's a data factory link service, right? And the type is blobfs. That means it connects to the data lake. What is the URL? This is the URL to the data lake and the encrypted credential to the data lake. So basically, whatever UI elements you create, whether it's a link service or a data set or a pipeline or any other artifact for that matter, there is a corresponding JSON based code for it, right? Now, when I integrate my workspace, integrate this data factory workspace or data factory studio, whatever it is, right? I call it workspace. This will get backed up. This code that you see will get backed up to GitHub. All right. So it'll mention things like linked services. So under link services, I'll find all the link services. See this one. This link service is for my, yesterday I had created the self-hosted integration runtime, right? So it connects using this self-hosted integration runtime. It connects to that virtual machine, right? It's the type is file server. It's using the link service. The user ID is this. I entered the password also, right? I entered the user ID and the password, everything I did that. So all of that data is saved in the JSON based format. So this is the code that gets copied onto the remote repository. Clear? Make sense? We'll be doing Git integration and we'll see how it works. For now, do you understand what your code is and what gets backed up to Git? But this is not the code that I was talking about previously, right? So for transformation, right, a code would have been written in a particular language, whatever language Azure uses. The connection strings would have been established. The entire infrastructure would have been created, right? So all of that happens through the backend here all itself. So now uh, we were discussing about data sets and pipelines are done. Now we move to the data flows.